Right, now, a call from Kevin in Basingstoke. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Ian. Yeah,
Hi.
Elon Musk has bought his way into American politics. Should he be able to do the same thing in the UK with Reform UK?
Well, the government is reportedly considering imposing a cap on political donations after it was suggested that Elon Musk is considering donating almost £80 million to Reform UK, following his public criticisms on his social media platform of Keir Starmer during the US election campaign. He was awarding $1 million per day to voters in swing states who signed his pro-Trump petition. I think that's a rather simplified way of putting it. It was a bit more complicated than that. However, I don't really understand this because as an American citizen, Elon Musk would not be able to donate to a UK political party. So unless somebody can... Janet, you go first.
That's exactly right. I mean, the idea that a foreign billionaire could buy influence in our political process completely out of the question. I mean, it would be almost as serious as a foreign government buying influence in a media organisation. I won't go into the details there. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
But that's just beyond... It's beyond comprehension how anyone could even contemplate such a thing. And it's a sign, I suppose, of the fact that he's becoming maniacal. I mean, that his ambition is becoming pathological. Does he really think that he can manipulate British political process in the way that he believes that he has in American politics? I don't actually think...
I suppose he could become a British citizen and then he could do it.
No, it's not that easy to become
I think it is, because plenty of Russian oligarchs have done that and donated money to the Tory party.
It takes a while. And even then, I think the money would be coming from his business, and his business is based in America. It wouldn't be his... I mean, he could, I suppose, describe it as his own personal wealth. But I actually don't think that it would have the effect that he wants. I think it would have such a taint. I think that it would be very foolish of Farage to accept such a donation. He should say, as he claims to be, such a strong British patriot, that it is inappropriate for any foreign interest to have any kind of serious manipulative control over the democratic process here. That would be the most sensible thing for him to say under these circumstances.
Well, I think the way that he would do it, or it's been suggested that he might do it, was basically put it through X UK. Obviously, X is at the moment a US company, but putting it through X UK. I don't know whether that would work. I mean, I think foreign donations are actually capped at £500. But you just mentioned there it would be like a foreign government. I mean, don't forget that he is basically going to be a member of Donald Trump's government. It's not just that he is a US billionaire, but I think I disagree on the point that Farage would be silly to accept this. I think Nigel Farage would be absolutely delighted to accept this influx of money, and I think it could be a serious problem. For some reason, he's taken this massive interest in UK politics. He's called the UK a tyrannical police state.
He said we were going to have a civil war.
He said we were going to have a civil war. He said, yes, Reform's going to win the next general election. He's very interested in it, and I think it's really, I mean, I don't know whether you agree, Catherine, but I think it's really, really problematic for the government, especially if they're able to get this donation over the line. You mentioned there that apparently the government is considering bringing this cap. Number 10 was steering against that earlier today, but suggesting that maybe they'd bring in a cap of £100,000. But it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. I don't know.
Sorry.
Hang on a second. Let you finish, John.
I thought you had finished, sorry. But if you're going to have a ruse of the kind you describe and channel it through another organisation, better not to broadcast it so early because it's then not a ruse, is it? So he's made his intentions palpably clear, but in such a crude way, everyone knows what his game is. And the idea he may have a great interest in British politics. I've got a faint interest in chess, but I'm not a great player. And he doesn't...
I thought you meant the musical.
No, actually, no. I do play a bit of chess, but I don't do a lot of musicals. Actually, you'll be surprised to know, despite my theatricality. So I think Janet's right. I think it's unwise for them to broadcast this fact because it speaks so loudly of a foreign power trying to influence British affairs, and it is manipulative, and I think will go down very badly. The other interesting question, which I pose as just that a question, how much difference would it really make? Because political parties do benefit from money, of course, but they also need much more than money. They need good people and good organisation and good messaging, and that's not easy to buy. actually. It's about something much more organic than that.
But the Democrats spent much more than the Republicans in this last election in America. And look what happened.
Definitely, but if you were going to do things like, I don't know, by vetting for the next general election, which was something that ended up being a massive pitfall for them previously, if they were going to buy in better people. And I would argue, I think lots of people think Nigel Farage already has lots of kind of organic political power that he's already got. So maybe if he did have more kind of infrastructure, he would be in a much better position for the next general election.
Well, one of their nervousnesses is about their candidates. And you're right, they want to vet people and get rid of the mad, bad and dangerous to know. But that's about organic growth.
Do you think they should have? Do you think they should have vetted your good friend of mine, Tim Montgomery, before they accepted him as a member?
I'm not going to comment on Tim's circumstances.
No, I mean, it's a facetious comment, but he supported Tom Tugendhat in the Conservative leadership. I mean, going from Tom Tugendhat to Nigel Farage is a bit of a leap, isn't it?
Tim's a great friend and can be a brilliant man, but he's made a decision for all kinds of reasons.
But he's a big loss to the Conservatives, isn't he?
He has had in the past a big influence in the Conservative Party, but when he formed Conservative Home and so on and so forth. But as you know, in recent years, he's not been so involved for all kinds of reasons I'm not going to comment on.
OK. Catherine?
So just to, I guess, correct the story and put it in a bit more context, we did actually have in our manifesto that we were going to bring about reforms to political donations as part of a wider package of rebuilding trust and transparency in politics and sort of putting our democracy on firmer foundations than it has certainly felt in previous years. And so this is a conversation we've been having for some time. It's not in response to anything that may or may not be anticipated in terms of Elon Musk or anybody else. I think it's really important that we have a really robust political system that recognises the importance of British representation and that donations are done in a proper and correct way. And obviously, we really just need to clean up public life. And I think I understand the concerns around what's happening and what's happening in the US and making sure that we do uphold democracy and all those and democratic values, and we don't allow the trust to be lost in democratic politics. And I think that is something we're really focused on as a government.
But political party funding
and
is
that is the
always
greatest antidote to all of these concerns.
Fine.
That people trust British democracy.
But it's always been one of these issues
and we have
that
right
the electorate
system.
Thinks smells. And David Cameron, when he first became Prime Minister, he said he was going to do something about it, never really did. How can we be confident that Labour will?
I mean, it's a really fundamental part of what Keir Starmer and what he stands for is. It's always been, restoring trust and integrity in politics has always been a really important part of how he believes the country should be run, how things should be done. But also, I think it is without doubt, we are in challenging times. I think the change in the way the media operates, the way social media operates, the internet, there is a lot of instability around the world. I think now is the time to really bed in and strengthen our democratic institutions and make sure that people retain trust in them and trust in democracy as a whole.
Aggie, you said that Number 10 were pouring a bit of cold water on this today. I mean, how confident are you that something will actually materialise in terms of party funding reform?
Well, I'm not that confident at the moment. I mean, perhaps it will, but I mean, I don't know, Catherine, what's the answer to whether this could work for Musk to filter this through his UK company?
So I don't have any insights into how Elon Musk may or may not. And obviously it's all speculation. I do think there is an awful lot of speculation at the moment on the back of the period that we're in terms of the United States, and they're in a transition and handover period. And I think an awful lot of the conversation is quite speculative. So I guess I'm not keen to add to the speculation. I guess I'm happy to talk about the challenge that we have, and it is undoubtedly an important job that we have to do to rebuild trust in politics. It's something I've always done as a politician and tried to do locally. And I think the way our democratic politics works in this country is quite unique and important, and our links to our constituencies and the trust that you build with local people means that sort of disconnection to international concepts of democracy and how things might operate I think we're safeguarded to some extent in this country from
American politics is, as I say, as someone who was born and grew up in America, completely different from British politics in almost every respect. You have what I consider to be very valuable here, which is a direct democracy, the sovereignty of Parliament. America has an entirely different constitutional system. This is what you're hearing now is a lot of noise. If Elon Musk really does have a position of power and influence when Trump gets into office, he's going to be spending all of his time and energy on that project, and he won't have time to shoot his mouth off about the politics of other countries at all. So I think you can pretty much ignore anything that is said between now and the 20th of January when they actually do take power and get on with the serious business of government.
Ian, could I just say this? Catherine made a really good point about one of the great existential threats facing our country, and it is the idea that somehow all politics is broken. I don't buy that, okay? I think the relationship I have with my constituents in South London, the Deepings, is precious and special, and I value them, and I hope they value me, and I hope they know I do my best for them. And I think that's true of the vast majority of the members of Parliament that I've met over my 27 years in Parliament. There is something special and particular about democracy, reinforced, by the way, by the first past the post single-member constituency electoral system.
Which Parliament voted to abolish it?
Which a small minority of MPs that participated in that division vote abolish, and I think there's no chance of that ever happening.
No, I don't think so.
So, because in that sense, at least, the Labour Party is more sensible. By the way, I was going to make a cheap jibe about my suit being paid for by me, Catherine, but apart from that, I just want to... Yeah, it is, and it's lovely. But apart from that, you make a really good point, and it's something that politicians can combine to advertise and articulate, and I think you're right about America being very different. Just one last thing, which I think is important for your listeners. In my constituency, Catherine's constituency, in a general election, there's a strict limit on how much we can spend. Yeah. My seat was about 20,000 quid. Mm-hmm. Now that just doesn't apply in America.
No, it doesn't.
It's a really important safeguard.
What about this, Catherine, and everybody else? Stephen says, isn't it a bit hypocritical to say Elon shouldn't invest in his interest in reform after Labour sent 1,000 people to help Kamala Harris? It's just one rule for one and another for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
it is.
I'm not sure it was 1,000.
Labour were very unwise to do that.
Labour were very unwise
really
to do that.
unwise.
Hang on, let Catherine answer.
It's not the same thing at all. And I mean, I think Nigel Farage has potentially been in the United States more than he's been in his own constituency. I think as sister parties, there has always been a reciprocal arrangement that you go and you visit and you spend time with activists, and they really appreciate the boost of support. It's not going to make a fundamental difference to the outcome of an election. It's just and obviously
so,
there's been questions raised about it, but in terms of it's people doing it in their own time, in their holidays, because they
organised by the Labour Party.
Yes, and paid for.
It was organised.
Their expenses were paid by the Labour Party.
It was organised by the Director of Operations.
Not that I'm aware of. I know people who went in their holidays. They paid themselves. They spent their free time because
they might have done that, but it was coordinated by Labour's Director of Operations, who put it on LinkedIn and then lived to regret it.
Fellow sister parties in fellow democracies go and spend time in other ones because
let's move on.
You share best practice.
Okay.